Everyone. Oh, welcome to day 28 of 30 days of real estate content, real estate education. I remain John Olisa, the CEO of Red Diamond Properties Limited. Today makes it exactly 1 month or 28 days. Yes, 7 days make a week, 4 weeks make a month. Since we started the Facebook Live on real estate content, and it has been a journey. It has been a journey, an interesting one for that matter, one that has really stretched me, but it has been worthwhile expanding my frontiers also in the real estate sector. As I've said in the past days, the real estate sector is a very wide one, and it has many sectors. In the beginning part of this 30-day program, I shared one of the first things, or one of the first sectors you can go into in real estate as property brokerage. And I shared how to start out and some of the things needed for success. And I went on to other things. But what I want to do today now is something I skipped. I didn't tell you about the pitfalls to avoid if you want to go into property brokerage. Property brokerage, as I said, is one of the lowest hanging fruits you have in real estate, where with £0 you can start. And ideally, you have a duty to bring buyers and sellers together who need property, and in exchange, get a commission. So that basically is the work of a property broker. That is the summary. There's still so much to be done, but that's the most important. Help sellers to sell their property, help buyers to get the property of their desire, and you can work for both parties. Now, I want to talk about pitfalls you should avoid as a property broker, and I want you to pay special attention to this because it will help you. The first pitfall you should avoid as a property broker is not having clear agreements or contracts on property brokerage. Not having clear agreement and contracts on property brokerage fee. That's what I mean, on property brokerage fee, which is called commission. Just recently, I think last week, the Supreme Court of Nigeria, which is the most superior court, which is the highest court of the land, delivered judgment in a case of land dispute, in a case of commission brokerage. And in that case, the supposed broker sourced property for and he was called the plaintiff at the High Court, right? He sourced property for the first defendant, the person who wanted to buy from the second defendant. The plaintiff is the one who takes somebody to court. The defendant is the one that is taken to court. So this case, the plaintiff took them to court because they didn't pay him brokerage fee. And this is what happened. They supposedly got the property that the first defendant needed and introduced the first defendant, who is the buyer, to the second defendant, who is the seller. And in the course of negotiations, it was now alleged that the first defendant, that is the buyer, went behind the back of the broker, which is the plaintiff, and completed the deal, completed the property brokerage. Completed the property purchase transaction. Now, the plaintiff, who is the broker, was not claiming professional fees, and the first defendant, the buyer, didn't want to pay the fees. And this is what led to the matter at the court. It started at the High Court, and the High Court ruled in favor of the plaintiff, stating that he was entitled to a brokerage fee. The first and second defendant appealed against the matter. I went to the Court of Appeal, and the Court of Appeal summarily upturned the decision, saying he was not entitled to brokerage fee because there was no clear agreement. The matter now went finally to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court released judgment. The basic thing the Supreme Court said is this: there was no clear agreement. There was no clear agency agreement between the plaintiff, who was the broker, and the first defendant, who was the buyer. And because of that, he was not entitled to brokerage fee. How painful that was. How painful that was. And this was a deal that was done before 2010. So you know how difficult it is to get clients, and you've gotten a client, and the client now goes behind your back and closes the deal, and you want to get a commission, and because there was no clear agreement on it. How sad it is. Even one that happened recently, it's not in court, but it was a brokerage agreement. It was a brokerage situation, and the terms were not spelled out clearly. The broker thought he was working for the buyer. Thought he was working for the seller, that the seller wished to pay commission. The seller was of the view that it's the buyer that is to pay commission. And there was no agreement, there was no signed agreement between the broker and the seller on who will pay fees. And the deal happened so clearly, so quickly. It has been consummated. Now the seller doesn't want to pay because he's of the opinion that no, it's the buyer you have to get a commission from. But the broker is like, no, it's from you I have to get the commission from. It's over a month now since the deal was consummated, up to 2 months, and he still has not gotten his brokerage fee. How painful can it be? And I'm talking now from the point of the view of the property broker. As a property broker, get it up front first before you even have the agreement on who will pay the brokerage fee. First ask, who is paying the brokerage fee? If you are working for the seller, that is, you got the property from the seller directly, your seller is to pay you a 5%. If you bring directly a buyer to buy a property, the buyer is to pay 5%. If peradventure you have direct access to both the seller and the buyer, they are to pay you 5%. I want to beg you, please agree on it first and have a written agreement to that effect. Have a written agreement to that effect. Because it can be so painful after you've done the work as a broker. Now you want to earn your fees and stories start coming up. And it now ultimately goes to court. Generally, if the fee is a very huge amount, the broker will want to take the matter to court. But if it's a small fee, the broker may just want to just sort of forget it. But if it's a big fee, imagine you sell a property of 1 billion and you have both access to, it was the seller you sold for and you got the buyer, that's meant to be 5%, 100 million. And because you do not have an agreement in place, you now lose out. It will be so painful, because if it ultimately goes to court, I'm telling you what the court will rule on based on this case. And this is the Supreme Court. It just happened in this month of March 2026, if I'm not mistaken. I just read the case on Business Day some days ago. So you don't want to be caught in the middle. You want to avoid stories that touch. So please let it be clear. That's one thing I do at the beginning. I ask myself, who is responsible for paying the brokerage fee? Sometimes I have the buyer. The seller will bring and they'll still want to take for my commission. I'll tell them, mine is 5%. I am not giving you any commission. Is that fine with you? If they say no, you don't have any deal. Except I now want to shift ground. But it's so important that you have these things clearly spelled out. Clearly spelled out to avoid losing. So the first pitfall you should avoid as a property broker is not having clear agency or brokerage fee agreement. If you don't have it, there's a very highly likelihood you will lose. Yes, we have some property buyers and sellers who are people of integrity and they will agree with you and keep to the 5%. But you still want to have it written down so that if push comes to shove and it gets to court, you have your documentary evidence, because oral evidence might not suffice at that point in time. Another pitfall you should avoid as a broker is being slothful, that is being lazy. As a property broker, you should be up and on your feet. There's inspection at short notice. You should hit it. I remember back in 2023, there was this broker who will always be reaching out to me. And I've shared the story before in the early days when I started this 30-day content, I think on day 2 or 3. And she always be asking me, Mr. John, any deal. And she will keep pestering me. So that's how I finally got a broker who needed a property for her client, the buyer. And I reached out to this my client, do you have a property? And she said yes. Unfortunately for me, I was not in Abuja. Now the day for inspection, one story or the other came. She could not make it for the inspection. The people who own the property were not available that day. Would you believe that the buyer came in that day, inspected 2 other properties, loved one, and paid for it immediately? And that was an 80 million naira deal as at 2023. I could have earned commission of up to 4 million, even if I shared with them 2 million, 1 million, I could have earned. Her slothfulness made me lose out on that deal. Fast forward to 2024, the same thing happened. She would keep reaching out to me, Mr. John, any deal. And that's how she sent me a property. Because of short notice, she could not come for the inspection with me. She just directed me. And because of the short notice also, I could not visit the property before the day of the inspection. But I already expected that she would have everything already clearly spelled out. Knows the apartment, knows the location. And she didn't know all that. So it was quite embarrassing when it was now time for me to inspect. I was calling her for directions. The last straw that broke the camel's back was that she pointed me to a certain house that she said was for sale. And I got to the house. I believe she had already done her work. And for me to get to the house and people are living there, it was so embarrassing, and the client was there. And they now came out when they saw us looking at the property. They said, no, we are not selling. I felt so embarrassed. It was as though the world should open up and swallow me. I still went try to show the client so many other properties, but I believe it affected my reputation there. Since that time, 2 years, I just blocked the lady. Because even though you might be a hardworking realtor or a property broker, if you work with the wrong people, they can mess you up. The slothfulness of that broker really affected me. Affected me so badly. So one mistake you want to avoid, one pitfall you want to avoid, is working with slothful brokers who are not up and doing, brokers who cannot get the job done. Because you need to know, some clients, they don't need so much coaxing. They just know what they like, and they just want to come and make payment. This one is not the one where you will take 1 month to negotiate and negotiate. No, they just come, see it, have the money, pay. And many times clients have so many alternatives, so you are just one of the numerous choices. So if you are slow, sluggish, they move on to others, close it, and you lose out. Because you need to know, we have more sellers than buyers. So buyers are like gold, they should be treated like eggs. So when you're now slothful as a broker, you're shooting yourself in the foot. So that's one pitfall you should avoid, being slothful. And the third one I want to talk about is, the pitfall you should avoid is having little product knowledge. Product knowledge basically has to do with having an understanding, an overview of the property, the location, its title, its amenities, what documents the buyer will get upon purchase, landmarks, and the likes. When a client calls you and says, I saw this property, tell me more about it, and you're stuttering, you cannot describe the place, you cannot describe the property, can answer questions, basic questions on service charge, on the facilities, on the amenities, it just looks as though you don't know your work. It just looks as though you are just there in it for the money and nothing more. As a property broker, you are a professional, and it's expected that you will have some level of knowledge of the property you're marketing, what differentiates it from other properties. It is very, very important. And the number 4 one I want to talk about is having poor marketing strategies. Yes, or weak marketing strategies. That's a pitfall you should avoid. That's a pitfall you should avoid. You're just marketing. maybe on social media. As good as social media is, but just advertising on social media alone is not enough. As a property broker, you should have so many means through which you market your properties. Because the more people know about you and your properties, the higher the likelihood they will purchase from you. I have so many ways through which I market. I do online marketing in social media, on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, sometimes LinkedIn, and social media. Sometimes I use property listing websites. On social media, my first 3 sales of about 148 million came through social media. Yes, the person saw me. The person who even recommended me to the seller, to the buyer, saw me, reached out to me, saw an educational video I did, reached out to me, linked me up to the buyer. Buyer bought first property, second property, third property. So I've used social media and I'm still using social media. The first big shortlet deal I got was through Twitter. Somebody saw my tweet on a shortlet apartment, reached out to me. I helped her scout for the shortlet apartment she wanted. She got somebody to inspect, deal consummated. So social media, it's one way I've gotten clients. Another way I've gotten clients offline. I belong to associations where I network. And people from there, they know me as a realtor, as a property broker. They've brought property from me. So you can see that is offline. Another way, making word of mouth, making people know what you do. Another one is WhatsApp broadcast. I recently closed a deal with somebody who I had known about over 10 years ago. We did a competition and we were part of the contestants, a tax contest about 11 years ago. And towards the end of last month, I just sent a broadcast to many of my contacts who I know can buy real estate. And we just discussed, hey, just checking on you, and I reached out 1 week later. In a space of 3 weeks from the time that I reconnected with him, we closed the deal. Just bought a house in Abuja. So these are just 3 of these numerous ways that I have used. I market through other means. So you can use social media marketing, you can use email marketing, you can use billboard, you can use flyers, you can use radio, every and any means that is within your financial means to get your product out. Use it. So a pitfall you should avoid is you have a very weak marketing strategy. It's not best for you. It's not best for you. It's a pitfall you should avoid. Another pitfall you should avoid is poor client management. Now, this also presupposes that you already have a client. You need to realize that the client who can buy 1 property from you can buy 2 and can buy 3. And treat your clients like gold. For all my clients, I keep close tab with them. Majority of them, yes. Keep close tab with them, and I've seen repeat sales. The first one that bought from me, I kept close tab with him, helped him to get his document. Within 7 days, he got the second one. Within 4 months, he got the third one. And I've helped him in shortlet, help him to market his shortlet. He calls me for advice. I advise him on real estate, give him consultancy. I help him also manage some of his other properties. That client management, that client communication has made us have this good relationship even 2 years after. For that client that I maintain their property, I keep in touch with them. During festive period, I take gift to them. Or I just maintain that close client to customer relationship. So you'll be making a very big mistake. You'll be entering into a pitfall if you have poor client management. It's not best for you. It's not best for you. And the last but not the least pitfall you should avoid is ignoring personal branding. As a property broker, you want to be so good or so known as a property broker that when people need a property, you come to their mind first. Now, there's a social experiment I've performed with over 35 to 40 audiences and individuals. I asked them, when you think of cement in Nigeria, which brand comes to your mind first? And they say many times Dangote cement. And I say, when you think of soft drink in Nigeria, which brand comes to mind first? And they say Coke. And I asked them, and they know other brands of cement? I mentioned them. And they know other brands of soft drink, and I mentioned other brands. And I say, why did Dangote come to mind first? Why did Coca-Cola come to mind first? I ask them that question and I answer for them. I say, because this brand, to a very great extent, have pushed themselves so much to you that when you think of cement, Dangote is the first that comes to mind. When you think of soft drink, it's Coca-Cola. So as a broker, you want to brand yourself so much that when people think of real estate, you are the first that comes to mind. And when I say when people think of real estate, it's not just buyers, even your fellow brokers. It works. It works. Some of my clients last year that I got land from a real estate company. Let me tell you how I got it. I got it through one of my colleagues with whom I did an internship in GTEX Homes about 4 years ago. And this guy always shows up virtually every day, marketing real estate. Not just real estate, he will do storytelling, tell us what is good, what is great about real estate, and now market. So one of my clients said she needed property in Kuje, and I did not have a property readily. But immediately she said Kuje, my mind just went back to this, my friend, who always markets his estate in Kuje. And we bought not one, not two, not three, about 6 plots for about 4 different clients. Because this broker is always strong on personal branding. So as a property broker, do not ignore personal branding. So don't forget 6 pitfalls to avoid. 1, not having clear agreement. 2, being slothful. 3, not having product knowledge. 4, weak marketing. 5, poor client management. And 6, ignoring personal branding. Avoid these pitfalls so you succeed in real estate. My name remains John Olisa, and I'm the CEO of Red Diamond Properties Limited. We're also a property development company. And we recently launched our first estate, Genesis Court, in Kujiako Extension. With 200 square meters going for 1.5 million, you can buy a plot and build a 3-bedroom terrace duplex. With 300 square meters going for 2.2 million, you can build a 4-bedroom semi-detached duplex. With 400 square meters going for 3 million, you can build a 5-bedroom fully detached duplex. While with 1,000 square meters going for 6 million, you can build 6-unit block of flat consisting of 2 units each of 1 to 3-bedroom flat. And you can contact me on +234 813 799 0792. I go again, +234 813 799 0792. You can also send an email to reddiamondproperties10@gmail.com. reddiamondproperties10@gmail.com. Thank you so very much for joining me today in the 28th of real estate content, real estate education. I look forward to seeing you tomorrow. You can watch the video here live on Facebook, or you can also watch it on my YouTube page, John Olisa. Subscribe to the page, like, comment, share. Remember, knowledge is power. The more you know about an investment or a business, the higher the likelihood for your success and the lower the likelihood for failure. Thank you so very much for joining me today. I wish you a wonderful week ahead. Bye.